For more analysis on today's landmark ruling overruling Roe v. Wade, let's bring in our legal eagles, Elizabeth Wydra of the Constitutional Accountability Center, where she is the president, and Kristen Waggoner, general counsel at Alliance Defending Freedom. Thank you both for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Great to be with you.
All right, I want to play something the president said today in reaction to this decision.
Make no mistake, this decision is a culmination of a deliberate effort over decades to upset balance of our law. It's a realization of an extreme ideology and a tragic error by the Supreme Court, in my view. The court has done what it has never done before, expressly take away a constitutional right that is so fundamental to so many Americans that had already been recognized.
Kristen, he says, taking away a constitutional right that had already been recognized. Your take on his reaction?
Well, Roe was wrongly decided from the first day of its decision, and scholars on the left and the right have roundly criticized the decision and its rationale. Even Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Our abortion laws are unlike nearly every nation in the world. They're more similar to China and North Korea. And so the decision today was a good decision, turning that decision on abortion back over to the people and the states so that we can affirm life.
So Kristen mentions Justice Ginsburg. So I want to read this from Newsweek. They say under the headline, Ruth Bader Ginsburg's warning about Roe v. Wade came true. They write, while it may seem unlikely, Ginsburg, the pioneering advocate for women's rights who died in September 2020 at age 87, was a frequent critic of Roe v. Wade, especially its framing and the speed in which it was pushed through. In a much quoted lecture she gave at New York University in 1992, Ginsburg noted how Roe was an example of how doctrinal limbs too swiftly shaped may prove unstable. Elizabeth, did you share her view that Roe was on shaky ground and this day might come?
For abortion rights, and say that she would have
No. And Justice Ginsburg absolutely thought that the right to abortion was protected by the Constitution. She rooted that right more directly in the Constitution's equal citizenship guarantee, but she absolutely thought correctly that the right to abortion is rooted in the 14th Amendment's guarantee of equality and liberty for all. She knew that one could not be a free and equal citizen with equal citizenship stature on the town square in American society if one did not have the basic fundamental right to make decisions about one's own body and one's own destiny for oneself without government intrusion. And that is absolutely right. And that is something that is protected in the text of the 14th Amendment. It has been reaffirmed over and over again over decades. And the Supreme Court got it egregiously wrong when they read the Constitution to have such a cramped and narrow vision of liberty that it does not include this right for millions of American women.
So I want to raise something, too, that has raised questions about Justice Thomas's concurring opinion and read you a portion of this. He says, in future cases, we should reconsider all of this court's substantive due process precedents, including Griswold, Lawrence, and Obergefell. After overruling these demonstrably erroneous decisions in Roe and Casey, the question would remain whether other constitutional provisions guarantee the myriad rights that our substantive due process cases have generated. And Kristen, that sparked a lot of criticism from the left who've said, okay, this is what the right is going to do next. They're going to come after things like same-sex abortion or your ability, or same-sex marriage, or your ability to use contraception. How do you respond to that portion of Justice Thomas's concurrence?
I think it is one justice, but I also think it's quite telling that advocates for abortion are instead focusing on other rights rather than whether Roe was a good decision or rightly or wrongly decided. What we do know from the court's decision, the majority decision, was that on at least 4 occasions in that decision, it said its holding was limited to abortion because abortion uniquely involves the destruction of human life. We also know that if the court's going to overturn other rulings, it has specific tests for doing so, and that would be on a case-by-case or issue-by-issue basis. So it would involve very different legal analysis.
I want to read something, too, from the Wall Street Journal editorial board. This is how they sum it up. They say abortion goes back to the people. The debate will now shift from courts to the political branches, which should be healthy for the judiciary. Both sides of the abortion debate will now have to achieve their policy goal the old-fashioned way through persuasion, not judicial fiat. So, Elizabeth, Back to the states, we know a lot of them had trigger laws in either direction. We're going to maybe get 50 very different results on this. But what do you make of that argument that it should be the states all along and those closest to those who've elected them to make these decisions?
Yeah, that's not how constitutional protection of fundamental rights works. When we have rights that are so sacred, like fundamental rights of bodily autonomy and the decisions about whether, when, and with whom to form a family, these fundamental rights of heart and home that were protected by the 14th Amendment, we don't have to convince our neighbors about what we should be able to do with our own bodies, whether or not we should carry a child, decisions about whether our marriages should be allowed under the law. These fundamental rights are equal rights that are protected equally across the country. They're not supposed to be up to differences in the state or a vote of the people. They're so sacred that they're supposed to be above the whims of political majorities. That's the whole point of constitutional rights. So that argument just doesn't hold any water. You know, the whole point of the right to abortion, and you know, I don't know what Kristen is talking about. All the abortion rights advocates I know are deeply concerned about the way in which the right to abortion, which is guaranteed in the Constitution, was overturned today. But the point is that the right to abortion is part of a series of a constellation of rights that relate to privacy and bodily autonomy and the decisions to make decisions about your family on your own, your body on your own. And those include rights about contraception use, those include rights about marriage, those include the right to abortion.
We're going to leave it there. I know it's been a long day of digesting this. Elizabeth, thank you for your time. And Kristen, we lost her on a technical issue as well, but we appreciate both your time. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.